Hey everyone, welcome to So It Flows. My name's Alexandra Rose, and this is your Journey to Splits tutorial. This is something that I get requested quite a bit from my students, that they just want to sit into the splits. And so I thought it would be fun to kind of break down several of the different poses that work us into the splits. Kai's ready to join as well. So there's 4 areas that we're going to be focusing on in the body when we get into these poses for the splits. So the first is the psoas muscle. The psoas hooks kind of around the hip flexor here and tends to shorten, especially the more we sit. If we sit at a desk all day, this shortens, our shoulders shorten. So we're gonna really focus on opening up this psoas muscle, and you'll feel it especially when we get into like low lunges, stuff like that. The second is the quads. So we don't think about the quads a lot, especially in the splits, but if you think about that back leg, we're really extending the quad back there. So we wanna work into the quads. The third, and probably the most familiar to everyone, is the hamstrings. There's 3 hamstrings. There's 2 outward. There's 2 outside hamstrings, and then 1 down the middle that we'll be focusing on. And then the 4th area is the hip flexors, or like the groin space. So the hip flexors is that space, especially you'll see when we hinge forward. We'll get into the hip flexors there. So I'm going to break down, I think there's 7 poses. I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, 7. 7 poses, right? Yeah, 7 poses. So we're going to break down 7 different postures in this tutorial. And what I recommend is that you commit to 30 days. Spend 10 to 15 minutes every night. I tend to like to practice at night. I think it's a nice way to kind of wind down my day. You can also do this first thing in the morning to start your day, or find whenever you have a 10 to 15 minute period to get into your mat and start to work into these different areas of the body. I suggested that you pick 2 of these poses a day and then incorporate the other poses as you move along for 30 days. This is going to really get our body acclimated. It's going to start unraveling the patterns that we've already created in the body. If you think of however old you are, we spent that many years creating these patterns in the body, and then all of a sudden we want to unravel them and do these things where, you know, we have our legs every which way in the splits. We're doing the WAP dance with Cardi B. So we want to take time to start to unravel those patterns in the body. So be patient with yourself. Have perseverance. I also typed up a tutorial that you can print out. It's a PDF. If you would like that, head to my website, soitflows.com, and subscribe to my email list, and I will email you a printout PDF version tutorial of Journey to Splits. So let's go ahead and get started. I do have a strap. I recommend a strap for especially the first couple poses that we're going to be getting into. You can have a strap or towel or t-shirt. And then if you do tend to have some blocks around or some books, they're going to be really nice to help you get into these as well. So we're going to start on our backs tonight. Hips down on the ground. Find your shoulder blades. Maybe roll everything in towards each other. And just take a few breaths here. You can start to open up the body by taking some movement, windshield wipering the knees. And you can also take these poses that I'm going to teach you and thread them together in a sequence that, you know, you can incorporate into your asana or your yoga practice. So we're going to ground down the feet, heels close in towards the glutes, and we're going to just start on that right leg just for tutorial purposes. I'm going to do 1 leg each, but and we're going to just roll out the ankle, get some blood flowing in the shin, start to open up that hamstring. And then to activate those hamstrings, we're going to flex the foot, toes down towards the chest, heel up towards the sky. You can stay here. You can even start to feel it into the hamstring, peeling that right hip down. See if you can keep the hips firmly rooted into the mat. So if you have that strap, you can take the strap, send it around the ball mounds of the foot. The strap is always an extension of our arm, so we don't want to have the strap or the elbows bent down here. This is just going to pull the leg in all the wrong places. We want an extension of the arm, so reach up towards the strap. And instead of pulling things towards the face, I want you to just draw the shoulder blades down. We're going to take 10 to 15 breaths here. Taking those deep breaths, you can also bring some variation here by bringing the forehead to the knee and then rolling the shoulders back down. Maybe exhale as you lift, inhale as you extend. Another option here is to send that left foot down. So this is when the body starts to open up a little deeper. Maybe we're in week 2 of our Journey to Splits practice. Once we have that left leg extended, we want to flex that foot, point the toes towards the hip. And then we can start to gently pull the toes towards the face. As you see, the elbows are drawing in towards themselves so the shoulders stay grounded. So this is pose 1. Option 1, again, you don't have to have a strap. You can hold behind the calf, lace the fingers, or grab up towards the toes, draw the shoulder blades down. So that's pose 1. Pose 2, we're going to come into a figure 4, ankle on top of the knee, making a little 4 shape here. This is a variation on our back. I like to press that knee away from the hip. Just find the length in the spine. And then as you exhale, we're going to draw the knee in towards the chest, reach towards that little triangle and behind the quad or the thigh, and then draw the shoulders down. Again, we want the shoulders reaching down towards the mat so we can lift the heart and then draw that knee close into the chest. This is getting super deep into the hip flexor in that right hip. So you'll start to feel the hip flexors. And we'll take 10 to 15 breaths here. You can take some rocks in the body, put some on, sing some songs, or you can stay super ingrained in your practice, breathing into this. Maybe setting an intention for patience, staying with patience. So that's pose number 2. So number 1, we had extended of the leg. Number 2, we have figure 4 pose. Here Kai is again, wanting to join our splits practice. So pose number 3, we are going to come into a happy baby, reaching the hands in between the knees. So there's a couple ways we can take this. You can take the 2-piece fingers around the big toes, lift the heels up towards the sky, and then draw the knees down. Or you can grab a hold of the outside of the foot, the pinky toe side of the foot. And this is super deep into the hip flexor, so you can rock, letting everything massage here, massage the back, massage the spine. You can even extend one leg and then the other. We're also going to take 10 to 15 breaths here. So we're baby, this is pose number 3. You also have the option, you can grab a hold inside of the foot. Again, you want to make sure that you're warm here. And then draw the toes down, extending both legs. Again, one leg at a time. So find what feels good for you here. And we'll hug the knees into the chest. And take a rest here. So that's 1, 2, and 3. So pose number 4, we're going to come into a quad stretch. This one feels real juicy. We're going to draw that right knee into the chest. Left is draw that knee out towards the side. And I like to kind of heel toe that left heel as close to the glute as possible. We're going to take that right hand. So the knee that's into the chest, that hand is going to reach up and down towards that foot, grabbing a hold of the foot. We'll take quite a few breaths there. Breathing in here. If you really want to juice it up, again, if you're warm here in your practice, and this is at the end of maybe you've done yoga or you've gone on a walk or a run, you can deepen this by drawing that knee over to the left side, opposite side, coming into a supine twist. This feels so juicy, feels good. Drawing the hips down, drawing the shoulders down. All right. That's pose number 4. You'll take that on the other side as well. So the first 4 poses we've done on our backs. We had the leg extended and a head to foot. We did figure 4 pose, we've done happy baby, and then we did that quad stretch. So now that we're done on our backs, we're going to find our way into a low lunge position. Lots of ways to get into a low lunge. You can come through a tabletop position, pulling the belly in. Maybe you warm up the spine, do a couple of cat and cows. Again, we're going to stay on that right leg just for tutorial purposes. We're going to send that right foot back behind us, lifting from behind the glute, and draw the knee in towards the nose. Puff up the shoulder blades and plant the right foot in between the hands. So option 1 is we can continue to keep that hip over that back knee. This is actually a modified like warrior 1 when we lift into it. Regardless if you have the hands down or if you're hinging deeper into the hips, you want to make sure that that knee is directly over the ankle. We also want to make sure, a lot of times this right hip tends to come forward. We want to draw the hip back, keeping them square to the top of the mat. So you can keep the hands planted. Again, if you have a little extra space in the hips or want to kind of hinge into them, you can take a wider stance here, again, keeping that knee over the ankle. So we can stay here a few breaths. Option 1, fingertips stay down. Option 2, if you have some blocks or some books, you can bring some books here. Option 3, you can press into the knee. Option 4, you can even reach the hands overhead. So take what feels good. Relax those shoulders, 10 to 15 breaths. Breathing here. All right, so this is low lunge. Nice and self-explanatory. We want to root everything down in the back. This pose is going to open that psoas muscle. So you'll feel it super deep into that left psoas. And then we're starting to deeply open that right hip flexor. Okay, our sixth pose, we're going to send the hips back into a modified split. So this is where we really start to get into the hamstrings. We started working the hip flexors, the quads. We gently open the hamstrings, and now we're going to get super deep into the hamstrings. So again, nice, easy breath. Stay with it here. And you can take a few breaths into that right hamstring. Maybe you add some spinal undulations here by drawing the heart down and then lifting the chin, lifting the heart. Just like that. For our next pose, we're going to come into a lizard. This is similar to a low lunge. We're going to peel that knee back over the ankle, but instead of the hands framing the foot, we're going to send both hands inside of that right foot. Knee hugs in towards the tricep. And you can really puff up the chest here. This is going to open that right hip flexor a little deeper. And you have lots of options here. You can even, if your hips are pretty open, you can send the elbows down to the mat, starting to open the chest here. Or you can even take some variations to open the quad. Maybe you lift that heel, reach the right hand back towards the foot, opening up the heart here. Again, you can play around with this. Okay, so this is lizard modification. Take your option, take what feels good, add some movement to it. So from lizard, we're going to take our final posture. We're going to reach those hips back, sitting back into this back heel. So you can remove the flesh from the calf, slowly sitting the sits bones down. This is super deep into the quad, and it also, especially if you have knee injury or brings a lot of tension, this might be uncomfortable for you. If there's any pain, you can always come off of that foot, maybe come into a seated tree, or even a forward fold. Take what feels best in your body. But the reason I like this pose is because it's a super deep hamstring stretch, but it also activates that quad, and it kind of deepens, in my opinion, it kind of deepens that hamstring stretch as well, since we're not relying on both legs to really fold into this. So you can stay here seated, maybe lift the hands overhead. If you really want to activate this, reach the heart forward, hands come down. Maybe you allow the heart to rest here. Again, take 10 to 15 deep, deep breaths, opening up that hamstring. This is super deep, so take your time with it. Let your body unravel. I always say that if we truly listen to the breath and follow the breath, our breath will never take us further than we need to go. And that is our final pose. So just to recap, I'm going to take you through a sequence, taking like 2 to 3 breaths in each posture, just to kind of bring it back full circle. And then we'll end up in the splits, and I'll show you a couple ways to get into the splits. So once again, we started on our backs. I suggest you take 2 poses a night, or you can string them together in a sequence and work through this in your practice. Do what feels good to you. Find your shoulders down, reaching the foot up towards the sky. Relax here. Deep breaths. And we'll find figure 4 pose, pose 2. Knee on top of ankle. Exhale, thread the hands through that little triangle. Hug the knee to the chest. Once you've done both sides, release, find happy baby. Pee fingers inside of that big toe. Maybe you rock left and right here. Pose 4, coming into the quad stretch, knee into the chest, left knee out towards the side, reach for that left foot. Breathe here. And we'll hug both knees into the chest. Rocking on into a tabletop position, reaching the knees underneath the hips, maybe some cat and cows here. We'll send that right foot back. Exhale, bring it forward for a low lunge. Puff up the chest. 10 to 15 breaths here. Maybe you reach the hands up overhead. Exhale, we'll frame the foot and send the hips back. Peel those toes towards the face into a modified split here. Lots of variations here. You can take some spinal undulations. Maybe you take a small twist. And we'll breathe 10 to 15 breaths. Bend the knee back into that low lunge, both hands inside for a lizard variation. Puff up that chest. Maybe you find the elbows down towards the mat. And then for our final posture, send the hips all the way back, reaching back. Kai's going to join us once again. Inhale, reach the hands up overhead and reach all the way down to the toes. Maybe you squeeze the foot, massage the leg. And there you have it. 7 postures moving into your splits. If you are ready to work into your splits, you can come into your splits from that modified split posture and start to slide the heel forward, let the hips settle into the mat, taking some deep breaths here. Keep the foot flexed, keep those hips square. Maybe you take a couple spinal undulations here. Another way you can come into that is into a lifted pyramid. This is also a super juicy stretch. I just didn't include it as I wanted this journey to splits or this tutorial to stay close to your mat, but this is also super juicy. You can flex the foot and then send the hips down. I recommend coming from a low space from the ground, from that modified splits, because a lot of times we force the body when we come too high up in a stance. So from a modified split, engage the core here, send those hips square, and we'll start to send that heel down towards the mat. Breathing here, keeping the heart lifted, or maybe you find a forward fold. Wherever you are, be gentle with your body, listen to your breath, and have fun with it. So there you have it. I hope that you enjoyed, and I hope that you dedicate 10 to 15 minutes a night to yourself in order to open up the body and journey into the splits. If you would like a printout version of this tutorial for the journey into splits, you can just send me a message on Instagram. I'll link my information below. Or you can find me on my website, soitflows.com. Subscribe to my email list and I will email you a version of that PDF. If you have any questions, please feel free to pose your questions, any comments, any feedback. I would love to hear from you. And namaste. I hope that you have a wonderful time getting into Hanumasana, splits pose, and let's keep flowing. I hate that saying. You can come in. I just don't know how to say goodbye.
I heard you doing it that way. Oh, that was male.
Thanks so much, guys. Thank you so much for joining me. Subscribe for more and let me know what you want to see on So It Flows. Till next time, namaste.